first time I didn't realize it. I was you couldn't hear me. That's not good. So we will figure it out some kind of way, just for those of you who wasn't able to hear earlier. Let me get this out. I gotta X out of here. Okay, hold on. So thank you. You should hear now. Try. Okay, try again. Different feed. Thank you guys for letting me know that you couldn't hear me earlier. Um, I had, okay, thank you. All right, so if y'all missed the first few minutes of my show, I'm going to post the audio of it. It was really good. All right, so Mark, we'll just come back in from the break. And then, Kion, I was talking about you too, so thank you for texting me. Okay, you ready? Welcome back to Today with Pastor Jay. I want to give a shout out to Kion Michael. She is running for Florida State House out of Jacksonville. And she has just been endorsed by Governor DeSantis. How cool is that? That's just like amazing. That really is amazing. So has my good friend Joe Woolbright and Christy Chong. They both have been endorsed by the great Governor DeSantis. That's just wonderful news. So ham radio. That's just something else, isn't it? I mean, let's talk about ham radio. We're not talking about ham or anything like that, although I want to eat right about now.
All
So,
right. Ham is
uh-huh.
not a word that represents the radio.
Okay.
It's initials of the three scientists who had the most to do with developing electromagnetic communication through the air. And the H stands for Henrik Hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And that word should sound familiar because it's not the car rental
Not the
company.
car rental
That's how
company?
we measure the frequencies in
Okay.
hertz.
Ah.
So they named it after him. The second, the A, represents Edwin Armstrong. Now, Edwin Armstrong was a scientist from New Jersey. As a matter of fact, he built one of the biggest radio towers in New Jersey, which I used to work in when I worked for the phone company.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know I'm going to mess this. Let's just say Marconi. I can
Okay.
never pronounce his first name, and I'm Italian. I should be ashamed of myself. But Marconi was the first one that developed continent to continent communications, and he did it from Cape May, New Jersey. Believe it or not, he had antennas set up, and he spoke to Europe
Mm-hmm.
over the air, which blew people's mind. He was the first transoceanic conversation on radio. He did that. So that's where the three letters come from: HAM.
Gotcha.
Hertz, Armstrong, and Marconi.
Very nice.
And that's where it comes from. Now, some people disagree with that. Some people say
It's
back
about
in
the
the
ham.
day, yeah, it was like it represented bad Morse code operators on the telegraph. They dominated. They were hams.
Mm-hmm.
They
Oh, I
they
get it.
wanted to be noticed on Morse code. But most people say these scientists are the ones who the word came from. And ham radio is basically frequencies like you listen to AM and FM radio. We're listening to a radio right now on FM.
Uh-huh.
Those are bands. There are a certain group of frequencies within that band with FM and AM. FM is frequency modulation, AM is audio modulation. That's what radio is. Well, ham radio is outside of those bands. It's other frequencies, higher up and lower down. And you can talk all over the world with it, depending on how the sun is affecting the atmosphere, because it charges the atmosphere with electrons,
Mm-hmm.
and those electrons carry your signal.
I fell asleep right half a second there, Mike. I'm sorry. I was trying to follow you,
I know,
and I
right?
just went. I did.
Well,
But let's talk about this.
yeah.
What's the difference between like CB? Everybody like, oh, CB radio and ham radios. Is there really a difference? Is it the same? And of course, I recognize most people don't know. To be a ham radio operator, you have to have a license.
Yes.
Yeah, you just can't get on there. Which, by the way, you ousted me the other day. I was at Gary's house, and he was talking to you on the radio or something like that, and I was like, hey, I think he put it up to my. He's like, you gotta have a license, young lady, to be on the radio. Whatever.
I just want to encourage you
I
to
know.
get your license.
I'm gonna get my license.
I'm going to give you also the name of an app
Okay.
that you can use to study that is, I remember when you were a kid, you had flashcards that
Yes.
taught you the math times
Uh-huh.
tables and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. Well, this app is basically on your phone
Okay.
and you use it like flashcards. And if you get the answer wrong or you don't know the answer, you say, I don't know. And it'll tell you the correct answer. Then
What's the name of this app?
it's called Ham Study.
Ham Study.
Go to your app store or whatever. It costs $3.99 and you never have to pay again. You could use it for all three levels of licenses. Even if you were Canadian, you could take a license in Canada on this app. You
So
could
there's
learn
three
about it.
levels of license. The first one costs how much? This is just the
Okay,
operator like thing. What's the thing?
technician is the first
And
one.
how much is that?
Technician, well, first of all, you only got to pay once. Once you get a license, you don't have to pay again to upgrade. So it's
Really?
so it's $35 to
35
learn.
bucks.
You have to go on the FCC website and get an FRN number. You register
That's like
with
your
them.
call sign? Like
No,
no.
that's not your call sign. They just give you a number. Now, when you go take the test, there's plenty of people around Palm Coast that give the test. Specifically, my friend Jim and his wife Lisa,
Right.
they're extra class license holders, and they run a VE session. That's a voluntary examiner session to test people. I've already taken tests at their house, and they don't charge anything for that. And
That is nice.
yeah.
So what's the importance of having a ham radio license and be a ham radio operator?
Well, your ability to communicate is dependent on electricity, the internet,
Mm-hmm.
cell towers.
Right.
What if that all goes down?
Oh, well, you probably don't know this, but maybe you do. I'm like a light prepper. I'm believing the grid's going to go down.
Yes.
The grid's going to go. I mean, we had COVID, we had all this other kind of stuff. People laughing at me. My daughter, my youngest daughter, Christina, there was like a deal at one of the grocery stores on beans and stuff. And I was like, hey, I need you to go get me 30 cans of beans. And she looked at me. She's like, Mom, I really don't want to be one of those people in the grocery store with 30 cans of beans. I really don't want to be that one. And I was like, fine, just get me 10. I mean, but I mean,
Then go to another store, get you another 10. Go to another store, get another 10.
yeah. I mean, I like trusting in the store, but I mean, I know like the top 15 things you need to have in your pantry, which are dry beans is one of them. Rice, honey, I mean, all these other kind of things. I'm a light prepper, and I've been encouraging people. In fact, for Christmas, I'm giving my children a handheld like ham radio thing and encouraging them to get their license. I probably pay so for about under $100. You can get a halfway decent little handheld radio and get your license.
Yes.
And when the grid goes down, just make sure you won't be able to communicate all over the world with that type of simple equipment, but you will have some type of communication.
Yes. There are, and people don't understand this, what's called repeaters.
Okay.
A repeater hears your signal and rebroadcasts it.
Gotcha.
So on your little handheld, maybe you can get 5-6 miles.
Uh-huh.
But when you go to a repeater, the repeater will rebroadcast it. It'll go out 30 miles. You'll be able to pick it up. So we have a repeater at the hospital here on 100.
Okay.
There's another repeater on the water tower along 95. There's a repeater out in Bunnell. There's a couple of them out there. And if you know what all the frequencies are for these repeaters, you can jump into them and talk on them anytime you want.
And talk to people all over.
Talk to other people who are listening on that frequency.
That is super cool. Speaking about talking to other people on the frequency, you had a bucket list thing that you did, and you've been a radio operator now for a couple of years, yes?
No,
No?
a year not even a year and a half.
A year and a not even a year and a half. And
Not
you had
even a year
this
and a half.
bucket list thing, and you were able, of course, you have all kinds of equipment. He's not doing this on like the $35 equipment. He got some equipment. I mean, you even have where you can go with solar powered things. You go out and you test this stuff out.
Yes.
I mean, you're serious about it. Got it in your car. You be talking to all kinds of people, and it's great because you can talk to people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also speak to people outside of this world, and I mean outside of the atmosphere. I'm gonna have Mark go ahead on and pull up these 28 seconds of your conversation with the International Space Station.
Okay. Go right ahead. My call sign's KO4PDI.
Hotel Oscar, welcome aboard the International Space Station. This is anyone SS.
Anyone SS KO4 PDI.
That's me.
That's Whiskey. KO4 PDI, this is anyone SS. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Thank you. 73. Happy 4th of July weekend.
73, happy 4th.
That is super cool. How
Yeah.
cool was it to hear the astronauts call back your call sign?
Just talking about it now, I'm getting chills. I'm getting goosebumps because to me, when I got my license in April of 21, I was told I could talk to satellites, and I've been a big space geek
Mhm.
since day one. My favorite place on Earth is Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center. I love the place.
I do know that. You've invited me to take me out there a few times.
Yes. And what happened was they told me I could talk to satellites. So I started looking into it and I studied and I searched and I looked for the right antennas and the right way to do it. I finally figured out the perfect way to do it. And lo and behold, now the astronauts are talking on the radio maybe 3 days during the week, around 3 in the afternoon. Today there's a pass at around 3 in the afternoon. I'm going to see if they're going to be on the air again
Okay.
today. But it's amazing because I'm talking to an astronaut. I'm not, I mean, normal radio satellites, they act as a repeater. You put your signal up and it rebroadcasts it back down to a larger area than you could reach on your own. And this was a human talking back to me who's in space right this minute. I mean, that was like a bucket list thing for me. And I did it twice in the month of July. And the first time was a fluke. It scared the crap out of me. I didn't even know it was going to happen. So I didn't record it. That was the second one that I recorded. It was on July 3rd, and I wished them a happy 4th weekend. Most guys just want them to say their call sign. That's enough. I was like, no, I want to have a conversation with this guy. So I wished him a happy 4th of July weekend. And when you heard me say 73, that is like, imagine a smiley face.
Okay.
When ham radio operators are finished with their conversation, they say 73. That means have a great day. Great talking to you. I'm happy I was here. That's what 73 means. It just cuts it down to a shorter, doesn't take a long time to say that as opposed to.
That is super cool. Well, we got to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Today with Pastor J.
Almost poked myself in the eye with that.
I know. I'm ready whenever you want to go back in. Give a thank you and a shout out to Steve Verrier. Thank you for sponsoring Today with Pastor J. TheFloridaMortgageCenter.com. That is cool. So I want to encourage everyone, because you have a ham radio club. You got a club here, and I know you have a group on Facebook, yes?
Well, I just started a new group on Facebook called Ham Fun with KO4PDI. That's my call sign.
Okay.
And if you say it on the radio, you say Kilo Oscar 4 Papa Delta India. Because nobody's going to mistake India for any other letter than I.
That's correct.
But if I say KO4PDI, there's, what'd you say? KOY? What is it? PDY?
Oh, okay.
So I use the phonetic alphabet. And KO4PDI, that's my call sign. Ham Fun with KO4PDI. It's a private group. If you go to Facebook and find it, just put that you want to join, and I will add you in when I get home tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to be able to communicate. Everybody used to love like the little walkie-talkies and then it did this and that, but ham takes it to a whole completely different. I mean, where was other than the International Space Station, you've talked to people where? Romania? I mean,
I set up, I'm into this Parks on the Air, which is every state park and federal park has a numeric designation. You go to the park, you put in that you're at that park and on this frequency, and then you try to make contacts. If you make 10 contacts, you've activated the park. I've activated Princess Place Preserve about 12 times.
Nice.
Already. Because I have new antennas, new radios. I want to experiment. I want to try things. And that's where I go. And I do that Parks on the Air to do that. That's just one avenue. There's thousands of different areas of ham radio. I call it a hobby of hobbies because there's so many satellite communication, point-to-point communications, digital communications, you name it. There's something in ham radio. You asked before about CB radio and ham radio. CB radio works exactly the same way. The only difference is you don't need a license for a CB radio because the frequencies are very limited.
They're very limited.
The reason you need a license for ham radio is I can't broadcast or transmit where I interfere with like WNZF's broadcast. I have to make sure I know the rules and what frequencies I'm allowed on. That's why you get a license.
Oh, that makes sense. Because I'd be all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Like you can't just spin the dial and talk. You have to be within a certain frequency range based on your license level.
Oh, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, we're going to get this down pack. I want to encourage everyone to go to your Facebook page. And what is it again?
It's Ham Fun.
Ham Fun.
With KO4PDI.
With KO4PDI. Look for that. If you can't find it, just reach out to me and I'll send it to you. It's a private group. And so we're going to do another show. We got more people that are probably more experienced that are out there.
A lot of people don't realize it. Just in the city of Palm Coast, there's over 300 ham radio operators within the city limits of Palm Coast. I'm going to be one of those. And you will too.
I'm going to be one of them. I'm telling you, during hurricane season, when the satellites have issues and problems, when cell phone towers have issues and problems, all this other, you want to be able to communicate. I know a lot of times when there's emergencies and things like that, they're calling out to everyone that has ham radios and say, what do you see? What do you know?
Right. I'm also a weather spotter with the
weather
National
spotter.
Weather Service. So
Oh.
I can go out to a place. Now,
They
whenever
wouldn't
there's-
have me doing that job because they'd be like, Pastor Jay, what's the weather like? It's hot. Pastor
No, this
Jay,
is-
what's what? It's raining.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to get from me. Yeah, that's not my calling.
No, that's not your calling.
Yeah, I mean,
you're
like,
a preacher.
you think
Be a preacher. You're good at that.
I will turn it around. You think it's hot here. What you think hell going to be like? I mean, so I'll put my little spin on it. Thank you so much for coming. This has been great. We're going to have some more people come on, talk about ham radio, go a little bit more in depth. We got some children. Did you know there's scholarships that you can get? All kinds of stuff. So, guys, just keep tuned in today with Pastor Jay. You're always going to learn something new. Thank you, Mike, for coming out. I
Thank you
appreciate
for having me.
God bless you. And for those of you who don't know, you can dial 904-701-7177 right after this show and listen to me preach. Mike is a member of my church, so he'll come on there, and every now and then I may even talk about him. All right, God bless you guys. You know what I say? Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not promised. What are you going to do today? Today, you're going to get to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior so you can live forever. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.